Welcome to this Tutor to You Sociology topic video on media, focusing on the hypodermic syringe model. The hypodermic syringe model is one of the oldest models of media and is often referred to as the magic bullet theory. A simplistic model, it suggests that the media transmits messages directly into the consciousness of the audience, and that these messages alter the behaviour of individuals that receive them. The hypodermic syringe model is critical of the effects of the media, assuming that the audience passively accepts messages transmitted and acts upon them. Backed by psychological research, it remains often used when criticising the media in contemporary society. According to the hypodermic syringe model, there is a correlation between incidents of deviant, particularly violent, behaviour and similar actions in wider society. Based on principles put forward by Albert Bandura's social learning theory, it argues that audiences observe acts of violence and other deviant behaviours through the media and internalise these ideas. As actors perpetrating these violent acts often face limited or no consequences, this desensitises individuals to the impacts of the media and leads to assumptions that there are no consequences to their behaviours. According to those that support the hypodermic syringe model of media, an uncontrolled and unregulated media sends messages to the audience that shows violent and deviant acts on a regular basis. Despite calls for censorship of the media, these images continue, and the audience observes these behaviours. Often actors are rewarded for these actions, either through increased status, for example the transmission of images of hegemonic masculinity, or intrinsic rewards, defeating the enemy, gaining revenge, or even getting the girl. As there are limited consequences for these activities, the audience is socialised into believing that these behaviours are acceptable. Often the media will portray these images as being cool or represent them in a stylistic way that gives them credibility. This reinforces the beliefs of the audience that deviant activities are rewarded, and so they will commit those activities. However, this is a simplistic explanation of human behaviour, which fails to take into account an individual's agency or free will, as well as their experiences. However, there are applications of the hypodermic syringe model in contemporary society. The hypodermic syringe model is often employed when it comes to examining moral panics about violence, especially violence committed by young men. The mass media has often been a focus for moral panics. From video nasties in the early 1980s, these were films that could be watched at home that contained violence and were unregulated by external agencies, through to video games such as Mortal Kombat and Grand Theft Auto, and music videos in the early part of the 21st century. In the US, this is particularly common, with mass shootings often being linked to the killer's choice of media. For example, the Columbine Massacre being linked to the music of Marilyn Manson and films such as Natural Born Killers, The Matrix and The Basketball Diaries. This argument is often put forward by conservative commentators, and critics have suggested that this tactic is used to distract from calls for tighter gun control, citing the media as a cause, rather than the accessibility of firearms or other structural factors as a reason behind the event. Further applications come from feminist approaches that suggest that the representations of women in mainstream media as being sexually available create a distorted perception of relationships and sexual consent. Woolf argues that the media has constructed a beauty myth for women, and that this has created psychological issues for young girls and contributed to the increase in eating disorders, something which is the focus of much contemporary research with the growth of social media sites such as Instagram and TikTok. Furthermore, Din has suggested that the availability and access to pornography made available by the internet has led to the formation of unrealistic expectations of male and female relationships, and this negatively impacts on the self-esteem of both young boys and girls. In evaluating the hypodermic syringe model, there are links to critical theories of the role of media, with Herbert Marcuse arguing that the media uses a direct method to transmit its ideology to an unwitting and passive audience. This Marxist view, however, fails to acknowledge the agency that individuals have to reject these messages and differentiate between fact and fiction. Similarly, Newton suggests that the media desensitizes audience, especially younger audiences, to the negative consequences of violent and antisocial behaviour, and this is leading to psychological and social issues with younger generations. However, critics of the hypodermic syringe approach suggest that the media does have the ability to send positive messages. Ramos et al. Examined media stories and fictional representations of issues and found that often the media can lead individuals to become empathetic with a cause that they may not have been aware of, and that not all media transmits violent and sexual images. Finally, it can be simply argued that many individuals consume media that shows violent and sexual images, and yet do not replicate these acts, being able to distinguish between what is passed off as entertainment and violence in real life. That concludes this Tutor to You Sociology topic video on media, focusing on the hypodermic syringe model. Thanks for watching.